Thank you very much for joining me at this AGOA forum, the business forum that is taking place today. I'm going to start. You have listening to what the panelists said. Secretary Blinken also spoke, as well as the USDR Ambassador Catherine Todd. So we are at a critical time. AGOA is up for renewal. Congress had taken a look at it. Yesterday, President Biden sent out a statement urging Congress to renew AGOA. And in your view, there has been call for modernizing AGOA to fit into the current conditions on the continent, as well as the African Continental Trade Agreement. What does a modernized AGOA looks like for you guys? I will start with you. And if you can also tell us you are representing DRC, which is currently the administration is investing significantly in the country right now through the Lobito corridor. So a modernized, and as one of an expert on AGOA, what does it mean?
Thank you very much, and I will present myself first. I am Ngoi Joel Shiso. I hold a PhD in international business and management. I am an international business consultant and AGOA expert. As you mentioned it, for more than 20 years now, I have been helping African countries, especially Congo, to take the advantage offered by AGOA. And that's why a couple of years ago, I have been able to plead for getting back the Congo in AGOA, because it was expelled in 2011 and came back in 2020. Very important question you asked from different intervention of the panelists. I can summarize what the Secretary of State Blinken and others say in this. AGOA is still necessary to bridge United States and Sub-Saharan Africa. Why it is important? You cannot get away without trading. Even the US need a very small partner for trading. More importantly, what can be a big advantage of a small country in Africa trading with the first power economically in the world? So AGOA is simply defining that. As an expert of AGOA, let me not take it technically, but really have a very simple language. I always consider AGOA as an invitation to the buffet, where you have all the menus that you like and you don't like. Now, think about being at the table and you go sit down, you wait for somebody to come and serve you. At the buffet, nobody will serve you. Think about going to the table and just take what you like. You will also miss other good food around. AGOA is presenting not only the trading or exportation opportunities, it also presents to African countries trade facilitation. You know, we are a continent with very difficulties in terms of infrastructure. You cannot trade if you don't have good roads, even nationally. You cannot trade if you don't have seaport. You cannot trade if you don't have good airports. And in its definition, I always tell to my partner, even to my leaders in the Congo, that's the first objective of AGOA, to help you build your capacities to be able to trade with the United States, within the country, and the sub-region, and the region of Africa. Now, to go to the Lobito corridor you just mentioned, technically we call this trade facilitation infrastructure. When you have that, you free trade from even the farmer who can move from the farm, stop at the train station, sell mangoes. You never know where they're going to end up, maybe in the US. So that's what I can say for now.
Do you want to jump in?
Well, I want to jump in a little bit, but I'm pretty sure Professor said it all, like, summarize everything, and all the panels and the keynote speech that happened, in the morning. So first of all, my name is Emmanuel Kalumbata, and I'm the CEO of Awakening Hub. So basically what we do, we bridge the gap between the United States and Africa, connecting the public and private sectors to the American market. So I believe AGOA renewal is very significant for African government first of all, and with business owners in the private sectors as well, because as Professor just said it's just like a buffet. You come and serve yourself and choose what you like, and the one that you don't like, you can always try it, but but it's giving you options. So I'm pretty sure the way they're trying to modernize it and then making sure it's more accessible, and then because I'm pretty sure they did have very tight requirement before, but with the way the trading is evolving in the world, basically the United States is trying really to tap into it by making sure most of the countries have access to all the great stuff that AGOA is offering. So I'm not an AGOA expert, but working in the private sector, we see and then we know what is the importance of trading and then what AGOA has to offer as well.
Okay. Going back to the analogy that you use as a buffet, oftentimes, in talking with people that are involved and people like you, experts and business owners, as well as small businesses, some people don't even know the buffet is available. So I think one of what I'm hearing from this conversation and the event that the Ambassador Catherine Tai held yesterday with the Women African Diaspora Women is how do we make this more inclusive? How do we bring in more people to learn more about this buffet? So Africans can take advantage of it. If you can talk about that, please.
That's a very important question, how to have that way to include everybody, especially women entrepreneurs. May I also add youth, because without the participation of the women and the youth in the business, we are excluding one of the major segments of the population. And sometimes even the most vibrant, they try new ways. They strive in difficult conditions that some businesses, even with all the money they have, may not succeed. What is the best way to include all that? Probably this is where your question about modernizing AGOA is very important. Let's modernize AGOA first with the focus, not on numbers, but focus on people.
On the demographic.
On the demographic, because they are the producer. As we talk about women and youth, we cannot shy away. These also are the segment forgotten by African institutions. They will lend only to somebody who have a name, somebody who can read and write good and have connections. But those farmers don't have connections. If we focus on them, as we see in this American society, where programs are not meant to be given to friends, but to lift up the population out of poverty. That will be a key point in modernization. The second point will be capacity building. Yes, US under AGOA always talk about capacity building. I would ask in modernization to first go back to the fundamental. The fundamental was help African farmer, producer, small businesses, young people to get involved in the trade. And that comes with capacity building, training, helping with technology, mostly in this new era of IT. So if we do that, we are bringing this segment on board, and we can then leverage what they can do and what they can produce. In modernizing also AGOA, let's look closely at these tensions that exist between the US and African countries on the conditionalities. They talk about democracy, they talk about human rights, they talk about child labors. But when you look closely at it, it is conceived and interpreted in the way US want to do it, not sometimes in the way African can explain. I do that because, I'm saying that because as an expert, I am between the two continents.
Which is very important, very key.
And sometimes understanding that you don't have to ask to Africa to have a perfect democracy. First, it does not exist anyway. Just to see what we went through in the US, starting
what we're going through.
and what we are going through, it's about being flexible. Well, you prevent Africa to trade with US because you are setting some benchmarks of democracy, but you're not setting nothing for China. Why that difference? Simply coming from the power each one have. China have the economic power, Russia have economic power, other countries have that, but since Africa does not have it, you use that to crush them. In modernizing AGOA, I would like US to first understand that in this new generation of critical minerals that is coming solely from Africa, you need to change the mechanism that you understand their situation. At the same time, you help them growing in terms of economy. You cannot put both at the same level and expect really to do good result. So for now, I can stop maybe there about modernizing, but there are more needed to do.
So what I'm hearing from you is the US needs to be flexible.
Need to be flexible.
In their approach. As we talk about the modernization of AGOA, part of that is to realize that when it was launched in 2000, this situation is not the same as it is currently on the continent.
Yes.
So you also, in reviewing it, you have to review the current situation across the continent,
Exactly.
across sub-Saharan Africa.
Exactly.
So just as the US economic is not where it was 2000 ago, 2 decades ago, China wasn't a powerhouse. But now China has become
Exactly.
the second largest economic in the world.
Yes.
So in reviewing AGOA, the Congress, they are calling for more engagement and more trade with Africa, also have to understand that the barriers that were put in place the guide rail that were put in place, perhaps it's time to review those guide rail also.
It is good to review those guidelines and conditions. Why? It is good to review it. We are not saying here that no democracy in Africa, no respect of you. That's not what we say.
Yeah.
But don't set the benchmarks as a condition of your own. Come and work with them to improve that, to not be too judgmental.
Judgmental.
Sit at the table, do negotiation,
Listen.
exchange, listen the others, go listen the population. Sometimes, let me maybe say this, not that I underestimate the importance of democracy. The best democracy for Africa now is to have the stomach filled. The best democracy for human right now in Africa is for them to see that they can send their kids to school. They can have medical and all other needs. Trade is the best way to provide that. It takes these people away from expecting something from the government, but from producing their own. Now, you prevent these people from the trade under AGOA because the government did not respect democracy. So how are you going to solve the problem? You created two problems. You are against the government because you're not getting along about that. You are against the population because you're not helping them to trade.
And that's why we see some people support autocrats, even though it's not good for them, but it's provided them with, as you said, allowing them to fill their stomach at this period.
And let me even maybe mention something. I'm sorry about maybe going too much on that. When all those decisions are taken, bilateral negotiations are stopped, then you are preventing this government from Africa to buy what they need for infrastructure, what they need for medical. So how can we try to solve a problem by creating a big problem?
A bigger problem. Thank you so much for that, for that in-depth analysis. Do you want to add to that?
Yes, I'll add on something, like going back to the first question when you say, how can, basically those rural people who don't have connections, going to be aware of the AGOA opportunities that they have. Like, basically what I would say on my side is the US has to come up with, some very specific program to really reach those people that are really producing.
So sort of a substitute to AGOA, or sort of like a second stage of AGOA.
Yes, like basically those are the agencies, maybe private agencies that are going to work with the AGOA to really expand and put the word out there. Because most of the time we see those people in the rural areas, nobody really cares about them. Nobody really see, but they are smart. They really know what they're doing, and they have the product because they can produce, but they don't only have the opportunities, but they don't have also connections. But I believe for the US to really be able to tap into all those opportunities is to really create a way of reaching out to those people. And then when it comes on the bigger level, basically the way the US deal with countries, as I said, before, I think this AGOA, the one that is expiring next year, basically had a lot of restrictions, cutting off a lot of countries, as Professor just said it. You are against the government, and you cut off everybody, now you create two problems. And I think the second problem is even bigger than the first one. And that creates frustrations, that create a lot of things, and I believe with this one, the way they're reviewing it, they should really be able to amend on all those restrictions to make it as smooth as possible, to really help or make sure the US is really trading with all those countries that are really needing this type of program. Because we all know the US is powerful economically, So we don't want the US to treat us differently the way they treat China, the way they treat France, the way they treat Russia. But we really want to be able to, Africa want to be able to sit on the table, on the same table, and let's talk business, because we have the opportunities, we have all the capacity in Africa, and we should be able to be invited to the table, not us just sitting while other people are sitting on the table and we're waiting outside, and then they're just telling us, okay, you know what, this is what we talk about now. Yes.
So you want not just the talk of equal partnership,
Yes.
you want the actuality of that to actually happen. Don't just talk, walk the walk.
Yes, and we don't really, basically I think that's a new Africa. Africa don't want to have partners that dictate them things to do. When you're in partnership, even in business or anything, in marriage and everything, you don't want your partner to dictate you. Of course, the US, they kind of economically are more powerful than most of African countries, but we really want them to sit as partners so they can really make those opportunities available to everyone.
Okay. I guess I will shift focus to the continent. Taking the context of the challenges, the sanction, perhaps, and what we're talking about, we want to be partner. African leaders, African people want to be partner. They want their products to be sold to the US. Leaders on the continent also have responsibility. And oftentimes, we see that, as you mentioned, creating an enabling environment for people to take advantage of this program. Rather than do that, they exclude a large population. And the program only goes towards so-called elites. And the rest of the group are left in frustration. And it's sort of like you are climbing up the hill and what has been poured down on you. So let's talk about that and your message to African leaders in holding them accountable also.
Yes, we don't want through this to exonerate African leaders. Probably they are even more responsible and accountable for 90% of what Africa is today. Let me just take an example. Let me ask the 50 or so countries in Africa. Take the time you were colonized, you get independence. They left to you good roads of that time, good airport of that time, good seaport of that time, good hospitals of that time, good schools of that time. What have you done with all that? There are countries where you go, they didn't build no new things at all, but they destroyed what was there. Do you want to tell me that the American came and destroyed that? Do you want to tell me that with the few money the World Bank gave you as a loan, they came and tie your hand and say, don't do the roads? That's where we said, yes, we know the imperialism mentality. We may not even help them to get away with that, but let's work on our own to understand that the development of Africa will come from African leaders within, will come from your imagination, from using the little you have, you can produce. Let's not even say that those countries produce little. Think about the countries that have minerals. DRC, South Africa, they taking out of those minerals millions and millions of dollars. Where it goes? Corruption. I'm very surprised when I hear that. Okay, a 100 kilometers road could have cost you $5 million, and you say we don't have it. We need the World Bank to loan us that money. But the next day, somebody embezzled $10 million from your own institution, and you want to blame America for that? You want to blame France and Belgium for that? Let's sometimes, even not sometimes, but often, accept that responsibility. That's from the starting point we will start improving. About the conditions, just to mention quickly, America may not get away with will not maybe change all the conditions with AGOA. 20 years after they maintained it, fine, maintain it, but give at least a time when you find out that there is violation of democracy, of human rights. Say, we're giving you 1 year warning, and these are the benchmarks you have to work on. Otherwise, we will then go back to the sanction that is in AGOA. Then every country will, maybe what you say was a violation, they were not even aware of it in the way you are as American. So working on those flexibility, kind of human understanding of the rules and regulations can really soften the position and the understanding on both sides. But to go back to your question, yes, African leaders are to blame for much of the African underdevelopment.
Well, I won't really say much about that, but Professor is really right. Of most of this stuff happening in Africa, because when they come here to get loans to take advantage of all the programs that the US has to offer. It's not the US that is telling them, like, do not do this, do not do that. Of course, as someone giving you something, they always have to say to you, like, okay, you know what, we want you, they will give you like a direction, we want you to do this. But the way corruption is happening in Africa, they are not telling them, like, take that money and eat it and steal it, So basically, I feel like there's a lot of things that has to change with our leaders as well. And I think it's changing because people are really being vocal, and then, people are being more conscious of everything that is happening. Politicians are not really playing games the way they used to do 10, 20, or 30 years ago. Things are really changing. They're more careful than the way they used to, because people are really watching them. People want to change. So I feel like the more the population, the peoples of Africa are going to push, are going to be conscious, the more a lot of change are going to happen with our leaders.
I think, as you said, we're already seeing that, and I think the two of you are representative of that. The younger generation and the older generation that are frustrated, that have this history of what was done, what was given, and at the same time that we should have moved forward from where we are 50 years ago or 30 years ago. And your generation has seen what is going on around the world. Like, why can't we do this? So I think it takes the two working together, and I think we see that in Kenya. We're seeing that in Senegal, where there is a lot of frustration. We're seeing that in Nigeria also, holding the leaders accountable that we deserve better. Show us the paperwork. Where is the money going to? So back to the AGOA, we have, today is the first day of the forum. And in the next 3 days, leaders we gather. Today is the private sector, and I believe tomorrow with the leaders and civil society. At the end of this, what do you hope the forum will have accomplished? The takeaway from this forum?
First, when you have an event like this, it is really something to appreciate. Because anyway, you are bringing different partners of the AGOA program at a table of negotiation, discussion. You know what did done well and what did not work, and you have all the chance to listen to each other and improve. The bad thing will be to say every year we meet and we leave. Let's live with the commitment of renewing AGOA. Let's live with the commitment of modernizing it. Let's live with the commitment to bring on board effectively women and young people. Let's live with the commitment that US probably still have more to do than they think about Africa. I say this because of a very small example. When China comes in Africa, yes, they are to blame for some of the things we know. But they know that to get this mineral, they have to build the road, and they do it. Right? Mm-hmm. America will say they need mineral, but they don't build the road. Which road do you want to use? The Chinese road or a miracle one? Let US also make a commitment really to work on trade facilitation for Africa. Let's not talk about it will be about US or nothing else. No, it is about modern era when US have to compete with other powers, economic powers in Africa. And in this fight, you don't treat them. You prove that you can do well.
You prove that you can do well. You don't fit, you don't use your power to tell people what to do. You know, just put what you have on the table and let's negotiate. If we like it, we'll take it. If we don't like it, we won't take it. We have so many options right now. So the US has the opportunity to prove themselves again and to really show Africa that we really want to be your partner.
Well, this has been a very, very great conversation with the two of you, and I truly, truly thank you for sitting down with me and taking the time to talk to our audience, as well as the administration and the organizer of this event and Congress, to hear this side of Africa that often people don't talk about. As my last thing, I always ask people this: what gives you hope? When you think about the continent and you think about the relationship with Africa, what gives you hope with the US?
The hope with the US is that this is a place where people put their minds together. They recognize what didn't do well, and they find a way to improve it. What gives me hope for Africa? New generation has come. They have made a lot of changes that shows that Africa will not be just that continent of misery. Yes, today it's maybe 20 countries struggling, but then you have one coming out of help another one, and the force to do that, as I say it again, it's not that older generation only. It's not those older politicians only, but it's women, it's youth, teaming up together with the leaders. Let's not look those people down. Those are even the best partner than the US we think is.
What gives me hope in the relationship between the US and Africa? I would say our generation. It's a generation who refused so many things the previous generation accepted. And I feel like the US understood that, and they're really trying their best to amend so many things. Because the new generation, we want to be equal. We want to sit on the same table, and we want to talk business. And if everything the way we want it is respected, we're going to take them as valued partners. They should take us also as valued partners and it's going to be, that's something that is really giving us Africans living in the diaspora or African back in the continent hope that America is about to change most of their roles so we can sit on the same table and talk.
And I will end this by saying what gives me hope is this conversation taking place, not just at this forum, but is significant, an example of the conversation taking place between the old and the young on the continent and the diaspora as well. And that gives me hope for the continent, for the US, and as a US Nigerian, it gives me hope that within in the future, my kids and my generation, as we've been holding our head high, we will be able to continue to hold our head high as Africans.
Exactly.
Thank you very much for joining me. Again, thank you so much for your time. I truly, truly appreciate it. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.